Good afternoon. It's Friday the 23rd of April, back in the reading nook on what is a warm, sunny afternoon, and I have a nice hot cup of tea. And of course, I have some parcels to unbox or open. So let's get to the first, which came this morning. Here we go. So a knife in there, can there. Go. I'm pulling this out. What I have here is from Old School Publishing, and it's three things, so I'm going to go back into this. So let's deal with the first one here. So this is Screams Amongst the Stars, a space horror role-playing game. It's published by Old School Publishing, and it is designed by Diogo Nogueira, and I apologise if I've mispronounced his name. My command of Portuguese is terrible. I'm sure his command of English is a whole lot better. So this comes a result of Design Quest 3, I believe, and what's interesting is how the movement has kind of evolved. So in previous iterations, really the focus has been on producing sort of like old school style fanzines. So fanzines that devoted to a particular game, Dungeon Crawl Classics, or Old School Essentials, or BX Essentials, or whatever the choice of retro clone the publisher wants to support. Now, the change has been, I mean, it's not just gone through Design Quest, but it's also in other creations of other fanzines. It is the move to the fanzine as a format for the mini RPG. So Screams again Amongst the Stars, in what we have is basically a space horror role-playing game in a zine format, and basically A5, and it runs to 60 pages. It's full colour, and this basically transcends essentially what you would expect from a fanzine. It goes beyond certainly rough quality, black and white, lots of different things in it, almost an anthology, a magazine sort of format. So, Screams Against the Stars is a space horror survival role-playing game. You and 2 to 5 friends play make-believe, creating a shared narrative of a group of spacers doing their jobs in the frontier colonies, while terrible and horrible things occur around and with them. The rules help keep the story you tell consistent, interesting, and challenging. You play a spacer, a person who lives and works in space, who finds themselves in a terrible situation, or for maybe you're one of those few people who actually seek out those situations. You could be a space truckers who accidentally open up a crater that should never have been filled with that sinister alien plant. I mean, I think obviously crate there. Or maybe you're a group of scientists sent to study a newly found planet that contains alien ruins where other groups have already disappeared. You could even play as a group of soldiers sent to a distant planet to capture a dangerous alien being after it killed all the inhabitants of the mining colony established there. So it's obviously what we're looking at here is a role-playing game inspired by Alien and Aliens, and other blue-collar science fiction horror films and stories. So obviously things like Outland and Event Horizon, and films like that. Essentially science fiction horror set on spaceships or planets, where some kind of horror is unleashed, and the survivors have to basically survive. So this is for colour, and essentially we have very simple attributes. Essentially, strength, dex, and willpower. Background table there, and this basically that's just rolling the characteristics there. Starting equipment, personality traits and physical traits, that sort of thing, just rolling on the tables. Just very quickly get into the background, and basically got a list of all the names as well, and then we have gear and credits and money handled there. Fairly simple. We get on to weapons and guns, armour and suits. It's basically all the sort of things you would expect from something like this. What I like about it, it's very bright. I say it's very bright. It's very colourful, and essentially it's a D20 system. I say D20 game. You roll saves against your strength, dex, or will. And it's equal to or less than an attribute, you succeed. And they're rolled on 2d6 plus 3. You have advantage and disadvantage, which actually allows you to roll 2 dice and either ignore the lower or higher result depending upon whether you're at advantage or disadvantage. So very simple, so very obvious. And that's a fairly common mechanic these days. Really have sort of descended essentially from the Black Hack and that kind of game. And then we have, because it's a horror game, we have rules for stress, and these reduce, obviously from what I gather, these can reduce your will, and when your will is reduced to 0, you suffer a crisis event, again, rolling a d10, such as you have a hard time trusting anyone and have to pass a will save every time you meet someone, or suffer 1d4 points of will damage, and so on. And then we go on to general background, something we're talking about how your spaceship and your spaceship rules and damage and so on. Here. Crew actions, captain, pilot, gunner, engineer, essentially things that you can do. I'm looking for a skill system, see if there's anything in here. Not that I can see necessarily. Quick guide for referee, principles of being a referee here. You basically make space dangerous, make space weird, space is sensors, telegraph danger, present choices, show consequences, and be fair. And then a lot of this is really sort of covered in bullet points, and then so on throughout. And then we get on to sort of more of the background. So we have a section on the engineers, like the original ancient space sentient species. And basically, one of the things it would have been nice to have some kind of illustration of what they look like. There isn't any. It's all against this this basically very colourful sort of. Say not vibrant, but very sort of like impressive background. Again, we've got another species called the Dreamers, and the Watchers. And on each of these cases, what you have is essentially here's the background, some rumours about them, tasks they do, the jobs, and then events you can have in encountering them. And we've got about 4, say, the Watchers and the Devourers, the Doppelgangers, and they each come with a sample one. So you've got 5 different species. And then dealing with humanity, you've got the different governments and corporations operating in basically the setting of the known space of this setting. Then things like the table of the weird, so weird space scenes. So what you can do with these is weird planetary scenes as well. Alien Ruins features job ideas and impending catastrophes and so on. And what you can, what's great about this is that all these tables is really, is you can take these and adapt them to the blue collar science fiction setting of your choice. So, easy, whether that's Aliens or Those Dark Places or Mothership. So yeah, that's another entry in the blue collar science fiction genre. I will be reviewing this in due course. I may well do a section, say, basically of RPG Zines, essentially, or Zine RPGs, depending upon how you want to call them, that are role-playing games in fanzine format. So yeah, that's Scream Among the Stars, a science fiction, a space horror role-playing game from Old School Publishing. And I will be back soon with more unboxings in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, please click the like button down below. If you have any comments or feedback, then do take the time to read them. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to more unboxings in the Nook, please do subscribe. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye for now.